VectorPro training videos. Test creation. Okay, so let's create a test. This will be a force test using a multi-test DV test stand and an AFG force gauge in conjunction with VectorPro Lite software. So first, ensure that your test system is connected to VectorPro by looking at the connection icon on the workspace. If you touch or click on the icon, it will list all connected devices. Remember, you can have as many compatible devices connected as you like, but they can only be used one at a time to collect test data. You can see we have our multi-test DV connected, and from the live data display, you can see that the gauge is also connected and working. Click or touch the New Test tile on the workspace. You can now see the Test Create environment. This is tabbed and intended to follow your workflow when creating tests. There are some more terms to learn here, so let's go through them. Attribute. An attribute is a note, label, photo or video that is associated with your test. They're free-form entry, so anything goes. Photos are taken using the webcam attached to your PC or tablet. If there's no camera attached, then no photos can be taken. In the future, we will extend the concept of attributes to the test specimen and batch management, and also be able to prompt for batch, test and specimen attributes before, during and after the test is complete. Attributes may be used in your test results and also in printed reports. For now, we'll set this test up with a photo of the specimen and test labels that will enable us to place the test on the workspace for easy identification, like the favourites in Emperor XT, but also to group this test with others of similar types. You can create a new attribute or select from any previously created in other tests. The next tab along is the Operations tab, and there are some more new terms to learn here. You may select from predefined test elements from the toolbox and add them to your timeline. The timeline is the order of the test elements. For VectorPro Lite and multi-test DV test stands, there is only a single test element allowed, although cycle commands are included. Instead of creating a program like a computer program to write your test, VectorPro uses a friendly drag and drop method of building a test. So looking at the toolbox, you'll see 8 different sequence elements. In all cases, the large arrow indicates initial direction of travel, and where there is also a small arrow, this indicates a cycle test. The remainder of the icon is intended to represent the test type. So we have cycle between positions, cycle between limit switches, cycle between forces, and a single stroke test in either direction. Once you've selected the required sequence element, drag it and drop it onto the timeline where you can then configure it. Depending on the type selected, you can configure the command in different ways. In this example, we've chosen a single stroke test to a required displacement value, and so by clicking the page icon on the sequence element, you can then change the test speeds and the displacement value. There are other options here, but we'll save those for later. Once you've set all of your required speeds and the target position for the command, select the now familiar exit icon, which will return you to the Operations tab. The next tab along is the Results tab. Here, you can specify all of the calculations that you require to evaluate the outcome of your test. There are many different results to choose from, some of which are familiar, but some may not be, so we'll explain them now. In the toolbox, you'll notice that we've separated our calculations into groups. We have our standard calculation set and a cyclic calculation set. Within each calculation set, you'll notice that there are 2 separate peak calculations and 2 separate trough calculations. This is so that you can search for peaks or troughs either in order of their value, but also in order of occurrence. So let's put some calculations onto our result space. Once there, they can be configured by pressing that same page icon that we saw during the test sequence build. Here, you can see a picture of the calculation so that you can see whether it's the right one for you. You can name the calculation, you can set the calculation boundaries, and you can also set the pass and fail limits. Once you've configured your calculation, press the now familiar exit icon and return to the Results tab. Simply repeat this process for all of your chosen calculations. Now that we've configured all of our results, we can move on to the Report tab. This is where we can configure a simple printed report. Any test attributes that have been included in your results will be available to include in the report on its toolbox. In the usual way, each required attribute is dragged onto the report page from the report's toolbox. Once there, they can be resized and positioned on the page by dragging them around and holding the stretch icon and resizing. Every report by default includes a table of results and the test graph including overlays. Finally, the Test Permissions tab allows the test to be seen only by certain operators, as well as specifying who can save, execute, view the report, print the report, delete samples, and upload the test to the Multitest DV test stand. Once we've finished setting our test permissions, use the exit icon to return to the workspace. You'll be prompted to save the test before exiting. And that's it. We've now created our first VectorPro test. So this concludes our training video on how to create a test, and in it you've hopefully learned how to do just that. In our next video, we'll go through how to execute your test, analyze the test results, and work with the test graph.